Welcome, guys. I'm Lizzie Brooks, and this is where muscle meets mindful. I welcome you for showing up here since today's topic is yoga for people who hate yoga. And I think this is a really important topic because we can dispel some of the myths about yoga and also what it means to do yoga and what you have to do to call it yoga, all of that stuff. Just thank you for showing up, opening your mind, and being here. So get on some comfortable gear. Make sure it's not yoga clothes. You can wear a football jersey. You can wear pajamas. You can do yoga in anything. It doesn't have to be tight, and it doesn't have to be name brand. And then if you have a yoga mat, or if you have a friend who has a yoga mat and you're borrowing that, great. If you don't, just make sure that you're on a surface that doesn't feel like you're slipping, okay? And especially take off socks. So I've had many people over 20 years of teaching who come to yoga in socks, and they often regret it. So take off those socks and let's go ahead and begin. So I'm gonna ask you to come to standing to start. And I just want you to find yourself, I'm gonna attempt to not use a lot of weird yoga words. So let's just come to standing and separate your feet into a nice base so you feel really, really balanced. And just find your alignment without being rigid. So oftentimes I see a lot of yoga people being very statuesque and very rigid, and it almost looks like they're not breathing. So be more casual than that and just align in what feels right. Now, you can bring your hands to your heart. If that doesn't feel right to you, keep your arms down to the sides and just connect with your breathing. And don't worry about your breathing. Don't try to wipe your brain clean for this, and don't try to meditate immediately. Don't try to breathe perfectly immediately. Just I'll remind you, don't worry about it. Don't do everything. Rome wasn't built in a day. And from here, take a big inhale and just sigh that out. Good, very nice. And let's go a little wider with the feet. So sometimes we don't like yoga because we think everyone has to have 2-mile-long hamstrings. It's not the case, okay? So just go a little bit wider with your feet, wider than your hips, and we'll just reach the arms up, and instead of going right alongside the ears, go a little bit out into an X. And now press into the feet and reach into the fingertips. So you're gonna start to feel your outer hips engage. You're gonna feel the back body and shoulders. Breathe in. And exhale, float the arms down. And then take your hands to your thighs and just come to like a half fold. So maybe just a little bit here. And you might wanna bend your knees for that fold. And then inhale, come all the way up, go into that X shape. And then we're gonna put one hand down on one thigh, outer thigh, and take a little reach over. So we're just prepping the body, getting some stretch. Inhale, reach both arms up. And exhale, let's take that stretch to the other side. Keep it simple. Inhale, reach both arms up, go into that X shape, and then we're gonna cross the midline and take opposite hand to opposite ankle. So if you need to put your back hand on your waist, do that. And I say ankle, but it could be the knee or the thigh. You don't have to go deep here. Inhale, uncross both arms up. Exhale, other side. You're just coming to somewhere on that opposite leg that feels okay and like you can still breathe. Inhale, reach both arms up. Exhale, float the arms down and just roll the shoulders back a few times. And then we're gonna come up to the top of your, whatever you're on, your mat or your surface for standing again. So I almost called it the yoga term, but we're not talking yoga terms today. And root down into your feet. Feel your legs engage a little bit here. Reach the arms out and all the way up. And exhale, let's just float them down, but this time take your hands to your waist. Bend the knees a little bit so you start to feel the work in the legs happening. Shift your weight over into the left foot and leg and step your right leg back into a short lunge. So we don't want you to drop down into this insane length. Just come up, feel stable here. And I just want you to find a reach into the back heel without bothering the back knee. So just opening up there and then lift your sternum up just a little bit so you can get a little more stretch into the front of that hip. Breathe. Maybe reach your arms up. Good. Bring your hands back to your waist. Hinge forward, and that leg you just stepped back, we're going to step it back forward. Good. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, hands down to the waist. Bend your knees again. Shift your weight over into that right leg, right foot, and step the left leg back. And so note that it might not land exactly where you needed it to land to feel right. So you might want to scoot it back or scoot it in. Just adjust, adjust. And then find your breathing. And if you want to reach up, you can reach up. You can press a little more into that back heel if you need a little more amplification of the stretch through the back of the leg, and the front of that hip torso draws a little bit back. So if you have a tendency to grind your teeth or tense at the jaw or hold the breath, just notice that. And you're human, so that happens, and just let it go. Bring your hands to your waist, lean a little bit forward, step back into that bent knee position. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, hands back to the heart. Oops, I just hit my mic, sorry. We're gonna go wide again with the feet, and that as wide as you started, and go into the lateral sides of the body again. So turn your right set of toes out to the short edge of your mat, and take your hands back to your waist. So instead of leading with the fingertips, so the eyes and the fingertips are really intimately connected, the eyes go where the hand goes. So instead, I want you to focus on the length of your torso and the side body. So just start to hinge, move your pelvis back in the direction of the back foot, hinge and get long. So I'm already doing something incorrect here for my joints. I've only been, teaching yoga for 20 years, so I mean, come on. Bend and soften that front knee a little bit, even the back knee. I was hyperextending there, not so good. I want to put the work in the muscles and not the joints. So I'm going to put a little softness there, go laterally, and then when I can't go any further, I'll just drop my lower hand down to where it lands, and my upper arm can come up if that feels okay for the shoulder. Now I'm going to breathe here. So this is called triangle pose. Back in the day, they used to say, pretend you're in between two panes of glass. Like, what? A, that makes me feel claustrophobic, and B, like, our bodies aren't just like flat, like stick figures. Anyway, yoga's crazy. I hate it. Press into your feet, inhale, come all the way up. Let's reach up, turn your toes forward, go into that same X shape you started with, and we're gonna cross the midline again. So cross over to somewhere that's manageable on your leg. Top arm could be up or to the hip. Inhale, reach, and exhale, cross over to the other leg. Inhale, reach it up. Good, bring your hands to your waist, turn your opposite toes out, so your left set of toes out, and hands stay there as you hinge your hips. There's a little crease, you're gonna make that more and more as you elongate both sides of the waistline and go into that triangle pose. And then not hyperextending that front knee, rather put the work and the stretch gently there rather than into that joint. And then take the top arm up if that feels okay. So this is probably a new shape for you. It's an odd shape to make. So if it feels awkward, you're doing it right. And just go to your breathing. So just find your lungs and just be a little more casual about it. Don't overdo it. Don't look to be perfect, trying for perfection. And then inhale, come all the way up. Turn your toes forward, reach up, find that X shape, and we'll go into the lateral we started with. So find that first thigh. I'm gonna go the right thigh and reach it up and over, any amount. Inhale, come all the way up, root into the floor, really feel the feet. So that's gonna engage the outer glutes. And come all the way back up. Float the arms down. Let's roll those shoulders around, get a little bit more spacious there. We hold a lot of tension through the neck and jaw a lot of times. Let's let that go. Turn the heels in, and everyone's least favorite, so you're not alone here hating yoga. This is called goddess squat or sumo squat. There's a lot of things. It's called work in the legs. So there's rotation, external rotation going on in the hips, so there's definitely a flexibility aspect, and then there's obviously a strength aspect. So root into your feet and just breathe here for a moment. I'm not even going to bring the arms into this right now. I just want you to keep the shoulders and the jaw relaxed and just breathe here. So this isn't like how we stand a lot in regular life, like you're not in the grocery store line just like hanging out ready to, you know, put your groceries onto the belt. So again, if it feels awkward, it's because it is awkward. And then straighten the legs, turn your heels out, toes forward, shake it out a little bit. And then let's just heel toe in or walk it in any amount and shake out through the ankles, the wrists, and the shoulders. And then just find yourself standing tall again. So a lot of people come to yoga for balance, for strength, for flexibility. I think a great reason to come to it is for posture. And so over time, instead of degrading, just really keeping that nice posture, which helps with the breathing, it helps with actually the oxygen level in the blood, so many reasons. So just stand tall, unlock the knees a little bit, open the mind a little bit more. Good. And then let's take a walk to the other side of the mat and reach up again. This time we're going to take a half fold, and we might bend the knees a lot. And if you can easily reach down to some blocks or some books or the fingertips to the floor, do that. So I'm gently bending my knees here so that I can have a long spine and not harm my hamstrings if they're not really that long. If it feels great to straighten them out a little bit more, if you just have that natural flexibility, then feel free to do that. But I don't want you to feel that the goal is to pop your face onto your legs. That's not what it is, okay? So root into the floor, breathe here. And then instead of the high lunge, we'll go to a low lunge this time. So bend the knees, take the sternum forward, hips back, fingertips alongside slightly towards the toes, and then take the right leg back into a lunge. Okay, so here we're just gonna open the hips a little bit. Really lovely for low back stuff, for if we've been sitting a long time. Inhale, lift the hips up, lengthen any amount into the legs. Exhale, bend into the lunge. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bend. We'll do that one more time. Inhale and exhale. All right, hands are gonna come down, and however it works for you to get that front leg back, do that. So it might be like a walk, it might be just easy for you to get it back, but we're gonna come into a plank pose. If plank pose isn't working today, put the knees down, just don't collapse the back, keep that supported. Breathe in either knees down plank or classic plank, and trust that you're probably stronger than you think you are, okay? So we all have a little bit more strength than we might know about. Take a breath in, and then exhale and draw yourself back, hips up and back. Now, just like in my fold I did a moment ago, you might want to bend the knees here, okay? So you can do that to any degree that feels good. You can even alternately bend the knees and open the back of the legs and the spine. So you don't need to look the cover of Yoga Journal in any of these postures. It needs to feel good in your body, like you're doing yourself a service. And then from here, look to the top of your mat and just walk there, or if you know a little bit more about hopping, feel free. Inhale, rise halfway up, maybe bend the knees. Exhale, fold, maybe bend the knees a lot. And then inhale, come all the way up to standing. And exhale, float the arms down, soften it out. And just take stock of the body. If you forgot to breathe, let's come back. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, gentle fold. Inhale, rise halfway up. Exhale, fold any amount, bend the knees. Let's take the left leg back into a lunge, and we'll just open into those hips and hamstrings a little bit here. Inhale, get some length. Exhale, down. So stay with that movement nice and slow, and just be curious about what the body needs. So your body is your home, and you're just trying to make it more inviting for you to live in. All right. And then from here, again, however it makes sense for you to come back to that high plank, take that high plank pose. I'll give you another option. So either you can keep the knees down and just hold there, or you can do some taps. Tapping off to the left foot and back. Right foot and back. Left foot and back. Just working the stabilization in the core. Right and back in. And then from here, we'll shift into those hips up and back. Root your hands down. So rarely during the day, if we're not doing something like yoga, do we really put our hands down on the earth. So root down, reach your hips gently back, soft bend in the knees, and then full finding of the breath. Soften the neck too. If you carry a lot of tension in the neck, you can really just let that go here. And then we're going to do something a little different. We're going to bend the knees a lot and walk the feet back. These are the hands and these are the feet. I've only been teaching 20 years. Again, be patient. Walk the hands back to the feet and fold. And this time we're going to roll up. So let your arms and head dangle. Bend the knees a lot and round. Wake up the inner thighs a little bit and round all the way back up. And if you can, close the eyes and feel for that click of alignment when you feel completely aligned rather than just assuming you have the alignment. And sigh out when you get there. Good, shake that out a little bit. And we'll come into a balance here. So take the left back of your foot, bisecting the middle of your mat, and take one foot in front. And again, you could just be on a wood floor or whatever you've got. And then you can take the hands to the heart. If that is not something you want to do yet, bring the hands to the waist and just balance here. So understand that we usually don't stand with one foot in front of the other. And I'm wiggling and wobbling here because this is a balance posture, okay? So if you're falling out of it, just come back in. All right, come back in when you're ready. And then we're going to switch which foot's in front. So go ahead and take a little walk. One foot right in front of the other. And then attempt to kind of put the same amount of weight into both feet. So instead of hanging out in the back foot or the front foot, press down into both feet. So do less mental work. Hands where you want them. Told you it was a balance. And then from here, go ahead and separate the feet again. Face my direction and go wide. Reach up. And exhale, we're going to take the arms out. So that's going to work the shoulders and the back a little bit. Turn like you did when you did your first triangle pose. Turn the right set of toes out, but let's elongate the stance a little bit more and just bend into that front knee. So this is one of the warrior poses, warrior two. And I find it's tremendously strengthening. Yeah, it's tremendously strengthening. I think that's all I want to say about that right now. So press into your feet and then add a little lift and a little lower. Little lift and a little lower. Little lift and a little lower. Good, that's it. Reach up. We're just going to switch sides. Go to the other side. Turning the toes straight out. A little lift, a little lower. Just breathing here. And then we'll take those two more lifts and lowers. Little lift of the hips, enter in a little bit more, and lift, and enter in a little bit more. Good. Inhale, reach up, turn the toes forward. Exhale, take your hands to your waist. Inhale, lift your heart up, and exhale, bend the knees a lot and take the torso forward into a half fold. So rotate your shoulder blades onto the back. Again, the knees are really bent. And breathe here. So working the hips differently and the legs. Draw your organs towards your spine. And then if you want more for the arms, reach the arms straight back. I'm going to show you from the side. Reach the arms straight back and engage the triceps. So this is kind of a modified bear pose, and it feels like a bear. And then from here, reach up, straighten any amount, rise up. Bring the hands to the heart, and then shake that out. So I told you this was going to be yoga for people who hate yoga, and hopefully you'll convert a little bit over to kind of liking it a little bit, but teaching bear pose I think just makes people still hate yoga, so sorry. All right, a little bit of balance. Let's heel toe it back in. Now, if balance is a little tricky, that's one of the reasons why people dislike yoga, because you need a lot of balance for some of these postures. Then let's do a modified version of that. So if balance is tricky, then just lift one heel and stand into the other leg and balance there. So that's more than you usually do on a general day, right? But this is a starting point. If that feels okay, soften the standing leg a little bit and bring the other knee up, okay? You can bring hands to heart, up, cactus, whatever works, okay? And we're just gonna go out to the side, back in, cross and down, okay? That's it. Up, out, forward, cross the midline. Up, to the side, back, forward, and cross. Up, and everything goes back down. Whew, all right, so let's do it on the other side. Just for some of you, you'll just stay right here and go, okay, you know what, this is more balanced than I normally do. So your brain has to find you in space, you're creating new neural pathways, it's all working for you, even if you don't do the full extent. Maybe you're just staying here, okay, which is totally fine. If you're ready to externally rotate, take it to the side, bring the knee back forward, straighten it, tap, cross. Up, side, forward, and tap. And again, whatever you want to do with the arms. Up, side, forward, and down. Last one. Up, side, forward, and everything comes down. And just march it out a little bit here. Okay, so if you have a towel or you have a blanket, I do recommend it on this one. And you can even take, if you do have a yoga mat, you can take your yoga mat and just kind of fold it over twice like that, so there's more padding, okay? So I'll go ahead and just keep that for these purposes. And again, blocks or books could be useful to you here as we're gonna come into a low lunge. So those would go up near the top of your mat. You would come onto your blocks or hands to the floor or fingertips to the floor and the knees, and then step the right foot forward into a lunge, okay? So what I see a lot of, and what I think the expectation is in yoga a lot, is that everyone should be just like their hips way forward and their chin up and they're open and just, oh, it feels so good. Well, that often doesn't feel good. Sometimes the things that look really cool feel really bad. So you have to kind of find where it feels good and looks whatever it looks like, right? So feels good is where you want to be. All right, so pelvis comes, you want to do this little inquiry where you just kind of move the pelvis forward slowly until you find, okay, I'm getting a stretch at the front of my left hip, I'm not collapsed in my low back, and I feel anchored through what's touching the floor, okay? Then from there, you'll press down into the floor with what's touching and then lift the sternum just a little bit without triggering a throwback of the chin, okay? So finding the whole gentle back bend, and then if the gaze does eventually come up a little bit or a lot, it's secondary, okay? So don't lead with it. Breathe here. Remember, if you're holding the breath, like, you're normal. We all hold the breath sometimes, and then we just go, oops, I held the breath, and we come back. And then we'll shift back, and as I'm shifting back, I'm going to move my hips back. I'm keeping my back toes tucked because that feels best for me. You do what you need. I'm going to walk my blocks back a little bit. Spread my toes of that front leg really wide if you can. That's really good for the arches of the feet too and the back of the leg. And then I'm going to elongate my right waistline and just breathe here for the hamstrings. So I think, just like I was talking about with the balance, a lot of things that keep people away from yoga are that they have tight hamstrings and they're like, I'll never do the splits. Guess what? So never do the splits, or maybe eventually do the splits, but you know what? It's all the same. There's no pressure. It's all the same to the yoga gods. Just kidding. I can't speak for them. I don't know them. What I mean is that you're here in yoga, or right now even just doing a yoga video, to feel better. That's all that matters, that you feel better than when you started. Doesn't matter how deep your hamstrings can stretch. And then from here, we'll walk the blocks a little bit forward, bend that knee, that front knee, and just really carefully bring it back. If you need the assistance of one of your hands to bring that leg back, do that. And then we'll come into a child's pose. So I'm going to take the tops of my feet down and move my knees out wide. You don't have to do that at all if it feels better for you to keep your legs together. And then I'm going to walk my blocks forward, put my hands on them, and draw my heart down. If that doesn't feel good, just skip the blocks and come down here, or forehead to the wrists or forearms. Breathing and just elongating that low back and maybe getting into the hips a little bit. And then we'll go to the other side. So blocks coming up if you're using them. Left foot comes forward. And from here, again, taking our time to come into the work. And actually, I think I told you the wrong side. So, no, I didn't. I'm just looking at myself in the camera and not knowing what to do. Do the other side. How about that? So, pressing into the back foot, pressing into the front foot, finding some length up, roll the shoulders back, breathing here. It's that slow movement of the pelvis, any amount forward. And some of you might be up here. So your pose might look more like this, and you just come a little bit forward. And that's just fine too. Are you getting a stretch? Are you in your breath? Good, you're doing it right. So let me actually go to the correct side. And then from here, we'll shift back into that hamstring stretch. So you move the hips back, blocks might come back a little bit if you're using them. You're taking that left hip crease back, breathing here. Spreading your toes. And yes, of course, can some people just drop in and put their nose on their leg? Yes. Does that need to happen? No. I'm getting a really good stretch by staying far away from the leg actually and just drawing that hip back, even into the IT band. So less work in the neck and the jaw, less mental work, less critique. And we'll slowly shift a little bit forward, blocks come a little bit forward, and we'll come on back. All right, you don't need those blocks right now, and if you folded your mat over, you can unfurl it here. We just wanted to prep those hamstrings a little bit more, and we're gonna come on down into a seated pose. So shake the legs out a little bit, point the toes and open the ankles. So we want flexibility in the joints, but we don't want to be so flexible in the joints that it's actually problematic to our structure or our ability to structure. And then press the heels back and the toes forward towards you, towards your face. And then shake that all out and come into the neck a little bit here. And so this one particularly, you want to make sure that your wrist is really happy, wrists and shoulders and elbows. So you can turn, as you bend your knees and put your feet in front of you, you can turn your fingertips towards your hips if that doesn't feel good. You can turn halfway to the sides or back. That's just going to change the orientation of the shoulder a little bit. So pick which one works and be willing to change it. And I think that's one of my #1 lessons in yoga, is if it doesn't work and a posture or a transition doesn't work, be willing to change it. It's all modifiable. Press into the feet, press into the hands, and lift the hips a little bit. So you might stay here. And then if it feels okay, you might rise up any amount, okay? And the feet could walk to any distance that feels right, kind of underneath the knees or in front. And that's another thing here. If you find a teacher who's really stringent and tells you it has to be done one way, run to another yoga teacher. Lift the hips. We're all uniquely different. We should not all be doing the same yoga. Lift up and exhale, lower a third of the way down. Trust that you're stronger than you think you are. Inhale here. Exhale a little bit further. Inhale here. Exhale. There's the ground. Okay, shake that out a little bit. And a blanket or some height under your sitting bones is your friend. If you don't, it's your friend kind of for everybody, but especially if you don't have a ton of flexibility in your hips, the blanket can be really, really useful to you there. So move that underneath you. If you don't have it, get, again, a book or something to prop yourself up. And then just notice how you naturally crossed your legs. So you might not be sitting like me. You might be sitting kind of more of a crisscross applesauce or some other way. I'm not going to get real picky about that. Again, I want you to feel comfortable. So come to the natural seat that you came to that felt the most comfortable. If your knees are really hanging out in space and you're rounding, you can put more height under the sitting bones and even use something to prop the outer sides of the legs and the knees, okay? And then just sit nice and tall. Again, we're not rigid, we're not back bending, we're just buoyant in the heart. And then calm down the thinking process around yoga. So calm down all of those those perceptions that you've had or anything that has happened in the past. Don't let them go completely because they're informing you now. But just calm them down a little bit and instead move into your breathing as more of a guide to being in this actual moment where you're living now. And then from here, relax the jaw, elongate gently the back of the neck. Reach the arms out and all the way up. Exhale, just take a gentle lateral stretch, similar to when we were standing. Inhale here. Exhale, rotate the torso down a little bit for a twist. Inhale, take it up. Exhale, float that arm down. Inhale, both arms up. Let's go to the other side. Exhale, take that lateral. So that lower elbow can bend if you're low enough, or it can stay straight. Inhale, exhale, little baby rotation of the torso. Inhale, take it up. And exhale, bring the arms down, roll the shoulders back a few times. Bring one leg forward, get a little bit diagonal here. One leg forward, one sole of foot goes towards the inner thigh. Again, if you need some height under that knee, add it. Take your torso and just rotate it more towards the extended leg. And we're just gonna do like a little lean. Just lean in a little bit. So back into really babying those hamstrings and being exceptionally patient with them. If you have a belt or a robe tie or a strap and you want to use that around the arch of your foot, you can. I just don't want this to be a tug of war where it's a really forceful thing that you're trying to make happen. And then with your breath, you might continue to find a little more length towards that leg. Length without force. That's all you need. It's really incredible how much we can change the body if we're patient. I think if we're really stringent and we try to be quick and forceful, the body pulls back. It tries to protect itself. And so it doesn't allow the changes. It's the gentle that brings the changes. Inhale, come all the way up. And just sigh out. All right, we'll go to the other side. So other leg extends. Sole of the other foot to the inner thigh, little baby torso twist, and just maybe a little lean. So my right set of hamstrings is tighter than my left. So I can't as easily go into this as I can on the left side. So just notice if you have one side that feels a little bit more tension than the other, that's completely normal. And use your breathing. Again, if you're using a strap or a robe tie or anything like that, you can find your way there. Sometimes less is more. So the release that you might feel is guided by the breath. So any amount, even if you're up here and you feel a little bit of release, that just by finding the breath, that's worth it, right? Instead of coming down here and then holding the breath and not getting the release. And when I say release, I don't mean that all of a sudden something's going to click and you're all of a sudden going to go, oh, the longest hamstring in the world. No, it's just that you feel like, ooh, okay, I'm okay here, and there's some length happening. All right. And then as you're ready, inhale, come all the way up, and sigh out. All right. Bring yourself back to that comfortable seat, but I'm going to ask that if you can, cross your legs in the non-dominant way. So again, I'm doing all these things to make you hate yoga, like getting out of your habits. But if you can, just bear with me for a moment. Cross your legs in the opposite direction. It's really good if you want to balance out the hips and the opening in the hips over time. Really good to change it up a little bit. So pause there for a moment. And then we're just going to come forward into a lean or any more amount of fold. So you might have your hands here, you might come down to forearms, you might be all the way. Wherever you are, you're in that safe breathing and getting a stretch. If you don't feel any stretch in the hips, you might need to walk your shins more forward and your ankles more near the opposite knees. And then as you come forward, you'll likely feel more in the hips and breathing. Inhale, come all the way up. And now you get to go to your regular crossing, your regularly scheduled programming in your hips. And then you're going to ease your way into whatever amount of lean and hinge at the hips brings you some spaciousness, some opening, and nourishment into the hips. So there are about as many types of yoga as there are cars on the road. So the type of yoga that we did today, kind of hatha yoga and me blabbing your ear off, that was just one type. There are so many postures, there's so many ways to get in and out. There's so many different thoughts about what is beneficial, or you just try the different yogas until you get the one that works. And what works one day might not work for you the next day, and you change it up. Just be willing to change your clothes, change your yoga, change your mindset. You don't have to stay. Inhale, come all the way up, and let that go with a sigh. And let's go ahead and come down onto our backs. So I recommend that you take this blanket and roll it up and place it underneath your knees here, or slightly back towards the thighs, and come on down. So this is called Shavasana. This is final relaxation pose. And little secret, I used to skip this pose when I did really, really super hard Ashtanga yoga and I first started, and I had too many things to do to just waste my time in that sleepy pose. Boy, was I wrong. So it sometimes takes a long time to recognize that we need to balance the work with the rest. And when we start to give ourselves rest, we can actually feel what's happening in our bodies and come through a little bit more authentically. I think sometimes when we only go, we get stuck in our heads and we're not breathing, and we might say or do something we regret. But when we are rested and when we are breathing, we're usually going to do and say the things that we mean and that we want to, the things we want to put out into the world. So thank you so much for bearing with me. You don't have to love yoga, but maybe, just maybe, find a couple of things, a couple of positives in this yoga practice to come back to. Even 5 minutes of movement and stretching and breathing is better than nothing. So I really appreciate you being here. Please do subscribe to the channel. You just press the button and you're subscribed, and you don't pay anything and you don't get spammed, but it helps my channel to grow, and I'm really loving putting out this free content, and I would love to grow. So thank you so much. If you have any requests, place them in the comments below. Any questions, place them in the comments below. I will answer them directly. Have a beautiful day, and the kindness of my heart honors the kindness of your hearts. Bye, everybody.